Download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly. When you play $5, that's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly just by playing $5. And you don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game when you want. Jason, as soon as you talked to Draymond Green and the Warriors after the game, you texted me and you were like, yo, that's some pretty high praise coming from some pretty high character guys in terms of what they've done in the league and what their word kind of carries weight with. Bo, when you read the article the next morning, and Jay, when you saw those comments, did it make you believe a little more? Did it put the same stamp of approval on the Cavs' early season success that it did for Jason and myself?
Yeah, I mean, how could it not? I mean, you have one of the greatest coaches in modern history of the sport and a guy in Draymond Green who doesn't throw around praise all the time. Like, he's a cantankerous guy. He's much more likely to crap on another team than he is to compliment another team. So when I read Jason's article, I mean, I think you're already feeling good about the team just watching them play and the way they played against Golden State in particular. But the fact that both those guys spoke with such high praise for the Cavs, absolutely. How could you not think it matters?
I agree with that. Of course, it's going to make – I mean, I don't know that I can be any more convinced that this is the real deal. I'm convinced. You know, I know Bull is skeptical. He's like, wake me in April.
I mean, I'm as convinced as I can be right now.
I think the biggest difference here, and having some time to really think about, like, this is the same club that last year at one stretch we didn't know what if they were going to win a playoff series.
Yeah.
And they barely did win a playoff series. And I started thinking about, okay, the coach is I always say he's the variable that changed. That's it. He's the control in the experiment. Can a coach really make that much of a difference? And I think we're finding out, yeah, he can. I'm not surprised that Golden State likes what they see. Look at Atkinson's lineage. Look at where he's learned. I think he stood on the sidelines and watched that for long enough to know that, man, if I ever get the pieces, this can be duplicated. This can be, and it's interesting. The Cavs have 4 great pieces. They're not. It's not like you can plug in a Steph. You know, we don't have a guy that's a Steph.
Sure.
We don't have a guy that's a Draymond. We just have 4 really good pieces. And what Atkinson has been able to figure out in a very small order is how they come together. That's what JB was missing. What the team was missing last year was you've got the greatest ingredients you can buy at the grocery store. But in the process of blending it all together, it's like there was no flour. It didn't stick. Nothing held it together. Where this time around, I think Atkinson is taking those same ingredients and he's showing us what a master chef can do. And he's blended this sum of the parts together to somehow be even more than they are individually. And that's a testament to him. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, Jay, because I don't want to gloss over what the players are doing. I think the players are doing a terrific job of following his game plan and getting to his point on the horizon. But I think he's the guy. He's the difference maker right now.
So I asked Draymond, the first thing I asked him was, do you see similarities in how Kenny is using Evan and how you play here? And he said 1,000%.
Yeah.
He said the difference is...
It's just a different mindset.
Well, he said the difference is Evan's 7 feet. So basically he was saying they can even do it better than we do it. Because Draymond is, 6'9", I think.
But isn't the question...
That's being nice, by the way.
Can you get Draymond's fire, competitive, heart? Can you get that in Evan?
Well, you're seeing it. It's
yeah.
coming. It's coming.
I'm not seeing it to the Draymond level.
Well, no.
But if he even gets close to the Draymond level.
But he's so much farther along than he was last year. And the Evan piece is wild because the Cavs tried for years to get this out of him. And it just didn't transfer. It just didn't happen. And now it's happening. And so I asked Draymond, do you see the similarities? And he said, yeah, for sure. Like, they're putting him in the pocket exactly like the Warriors do with him. But the fact that he's 7 feet tall makes a massive difference compared to how the Warriors can do it. And then he was talking about making the extra pass. And again, what I talked about earlier, the drive, kick, swing. And I said last year they seemed really pick and roll heavy. And he said flat out, last year they were much easier to guard. This year they're much harder to guard. That goes to the coaching component of this, the element. Obviously, Kenny's made a huge difference with this. I don't want it. like JB did a lot of good things for the Cavs, and I don't want his lasting legacy to be, boy, he really blew this, because he didn't, because he did do a lot of good things. But obviously what Kenny has done has turned this to another level. And what's so funny about that is part of the reason the Cavs were hesitant to make a coaching change in the first place was because they didn't love the field of available candidates.
Right.
And yet that's sometimes you just don't know until you know. And obviously they found a really good match here with Kenny and the skill set on this team. And it's working. And you know, Darius, I don't know, we talked about this last week. Darius had a terrible year last year. He's off to a phenomenal start this year.
He looks like the all-star again.
I don't know if that is coaching or if that's just a guy had a rotten season. He was motivated to come back and have a better year because he was an all-star before. So
could it have just been the loss of, he lost so much weight?
Well, that's it, yeah.
It was probably both.
He was weaker.
Yeah, there's so much going on with him last year, and obviously he was very motivated to come back this year and put that all behind him and have a better year, and he's having a phenomenal year. The Evan piece has totally flipped the way that they play. So now we've talked about it before. Now he's like this big wing, this wing big, and the position that they've put him in to this point has totally solved any sort of problems of playing Evan with Jared. It's not an issue right now. Mm-hmm. And if he continues to play this way, it's not going to be. So the bulk of it is coaching. Yes, the bulk of it is. I don't think all of it is. I just don't want this to become, look how great Kenny is and JB was a moron. And that's what I'm seeing out there, and it's just not true.
Well, moron's harsh. To your point, he was the right guy at the right time for them when he got here.
For sure.
But he was clearly not the right guy to get them to the next step, and it looks like Atkinson is.
And it looks like he is.
And there's a big difference in being. I don't want to stomp on him either. I don't, because I do think he did some good things here. But I mean, this team coming out of timeouts, A+ coming out of timeouts. Yeah. JB coming out of timeouts, D.
Yeah, we talked about that.
It was horrible. And that's where I measure the value of a coach.
Yeah, and especially in the playoffs, what are you going to – we've talked about this at length in the past. What do you have when you got to get a bucket? You're coming out of a timeout. You're on the road. They're on an 8-0 run. You got to silence the crowd. Give me one good play. Give me your best play that's going to get you a good look and get you a basket.
And he's done that consistently.
And it just didn't feel in the past like the Cavs had that in the bag, and now they do.
For the last 2 years, it seemed – that in a big game, if they were going to win, it had to be Donovan Mitchell.
Well, yeah, give it to Donovan and get out of the way.
It had to be Donovan. And we'll see come playoff time. But right now, it feels like it could be any of the four guys, and especially the other three besides Jared Allen, because he's not a huge offensive player. But like they can win big games right now if Evan Mobley's the best scorer that day or Darius Garland's the best scorer that day.
They could be carried by one of four guys now.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of teams that can say
one
that.
of five, because Ty Jerome carried him on Saturday in the fourth quarter. And I know it's one game, but seriously, Ty Jerome carried him in the fourth quarter there.
Well, and LeVert's everybody's playing well. I mean,
yeah.
But I'm talking about typically if Donovan had a bad night last year, it was an L. It was an L. That's just the way it was going to go. Probably the most impressive win this year comes in a night where he just didn't have it. He didn't bring it that night.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's three other guys that can have his back. And now I feel like any of those four, of the core four, can carry this team on any given night depending on the circumstances. And when you have a team like that, you have an NBA championship contender.
Oh, yeah. And their ball movement.
Not a lot of teams can do that.
And you've alluded to it here a couple of times, Jason, with the ball movement. Like, their ball movement is better than this. It's the best ball movement I've ever seen from a Cavs team.
And it's making the extra pass. And go back to the coaching thing. Steve even said it's easy to make the comparison between Mark Jackson and then when Steve Kerr came in and how he elevated the Warriors, and then where JB had the Cavs, and now Kenny coming in and where he's to this. It's early, but to this point where he's like even Steve said it's similar to the job that he walked. He said this was a good job. This was a very good job for Kenny to walk into because everything is set for you, just like it was when he went there 10 years ago. So now you're tweaking the margins. You're not necessarily trying to build something organically. You're just tweaking the margins. And Evan, in this instance, for this example, is a margin, even though he's much bigger piece than actually a margin. But to Steve's point, like they had the foundation in place. They had the defensive identity. They had two really good defensive shot blockers on the backside of the defense. It was now figuring out a way to unlock a couple of things. and Kenny's done a terrific job.
Now let's turn this into a dynasty like Golden State did.
I'll tell you what, they've got it set up that way.
It is
I was going to write about it
They're
this
all
week.
signed.
Young, under control, learning, just learning to play together.
Right.
What are they going to look like in April when they've got 80 games under their belt?
The
And
key's
Max
just going to be staying healthy when the time
And Max
comes.
Strus.
Yeah.
They've
You got to
got
be healthy come playoff time.
all of their key pieces are signed for at least 3 years,
Right.
and in some cases, much longer
So
than
let's
that.
put something together
And the
here.
thought, obviously for the last couple of years, well, Donovan Mitchell's going to want to be out. He's going to want to be. Now, if you're Donovan Mitchell, you don't want out.
No, and it was funny. After the drama was over
Yeah.
in the summer, and you hear his comments, you're like, this dude was never leaving. Now maybe it came closer than we thought or than he let us believe.
I think the OG Anunoby trade to New York changed a lot of things for him.
Well, we have.
But regardless, it doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter. He's
doesn't
here.
matter how you got him and how you kept
Yeah.
him.
They took a big risk in making the trade, and it paid off.
Mikey wants
They
to
won the
tease something.
trade.
Yeah, I want to tease something. Tomorrow, Jason and I are going to do our Ultimate Cavs show. And one thing in particular we're going to look at, and you guys were talking about coaches and drawing up certain plays. We're going to break down the Cavs' first offensive play from, I think, 9 of their first 12 games. And the different sets they're utilizing and different actions they're running to get guys open looks. And that's one of the plays you can look at through the course of the game that's specifically designed for a certain player to get a certain
Kind of like
shot in
Sean
a certain
King
spot.
does with our.
Yeah,
Good.
and these are, but from all different games, they've run a bunch of stuff for Garland. He's got the most
Nice.
first shot attempts. Mobley's got a couple. They've ran 1 or 2 for Donovan. But we're going to look at some of the different ways they're utilizing different guys.
Great.
And also, to Jason's point, they're not so pick and roll dependent and how they're creating space with 2 bigs who proverbially still aren't shooters, but that's not an issue this year because of some of the little nuances they're doing. So that's on tomorrow's Ultimate Cavs show. We haven't picked the time. So, Jason, you want to do 7 o'clock tomorrow? You want to live produce this right now?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
7 o'clock tomorrow. There you go. You heard it first here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.